Dr. Jazz. I just want to jump in, and I've listened to your music for such a long time, and your name kept coming up on albums that I have also. So, and
that was the good old days, Samo.
Oh, come on, no. I want to start with another dance, actually, which I listened.
All right, good on you, fantastic.
Like 1 hour ago, and it's just incredible. It sounds so fresh.
Wow.
And the band is killing. It's the music is amazing. And how did this one come? How did this one happen? Actually, the story behind it. And you sound as fresh as ever, as best back in the '60s, man. It's like really incredible.
Well, hey, it's a long story, but you should have heard me today. Anyway, I've known those guys a long time. Julian, the saxophone player, he studied with Paul Bley and people like that.
Oh, really?
In the States.
Oh,
but
wow.
they're all those cats are leaders in their own right. And we have been playing together for a long, long time. Often, not exclusively. It's not my band. It's our band. Which is got look. It's the ultimate. You would think. Like democracy. However, democracy doesn't always work.
True.
but it's an interesting process. It has been, and the band seems to have. Well, we were just starting to get launched when the COVID first hit, which was about 2 years ago, and everything was going so well, it was ridiculous, and everything has stopped. Everything has stopped. I'm still writing music and still playing, blah blah blah, but it's a different dynamic now.
Yeah.
And we'll see what happens. This album has just come out. I don't know. I'm in several different minds and heads about it all.
Sure, I know it's bizarre. I mean, mildly put.
Mildly put, exactly.
Yeah, no, but I saw that everyone wrote compositions for this one and the previous one, and it's it's really like a unit. It seems like it, so it's beautiful.
Well, the thing is, everybody. It's like there is no leader, which is, as I said, it's a mixed blessing. Having no leader is a mixed blessing.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's great and sometimes it's not great because you really do need some. But then again, it might not be the way you think about things. So one guy will take over and so it's interesting, and when it works, it's fantastic.
Yeah.
Because the ego is sublimated, But it's all about egos, not just the band, but I mean, life is, especially creative life, and how one keeps that ego in check and in balance. That's the whole, your own, you know what I'm saying?
That's a heavy one. Yeah. Like ego is always in the way, man. It's always there. Like he's this dude here, like, okay. Get away.
Exactly.
But it's true. But
easier said than done.
Yeah. Yeah. How was it for you? Like, you've done albums as a band leader from, the 70s or even before,
before, yeah.
Before, I mean, late 60s and, or
my first recording was actually 1959.
Already? Oh, shit. Then I'm really behind. Wow, okay. On the records that I have of you. So, but how was it for you? I mean, I know you had the Fourth Way, which was kind of a democratic.
That was the closest thing to a cooperative band, really.
Yeah. How is it?
But we had our own problems.
Yeah, becoming a part of this cooperative unit. Was it hard for you, or not being a band leader?
I like the idea because it's like I've got a pretty strong ego, I try to kind of leave in it and all the rest of it, but like most people, but at least I'm aware of it. A lot of people aren't aware of their own ego, what I'm saying?
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
And it does cause problems, but again, without it, you're really messing up. So you've got, you have to learn how to deal with it.
Yeah.
you know?
Absolutely. Yeah.
I mean, this is a story that illustrates that. Years ago, when I was in San Francisco, I had got a new band together, and the first rehearsal was great. The second rehearsal, it was terrible. It was as good. It was as bad as the first. And we had this big gig come, a real big gig at this place called the American Music Hall, I think it was called, back in San Francisco. It's a big one. And I didn't know what to do because it just wasn't working. And I'm just, there's nothing I can do. So here I am. I've always thought of myself as being Mr. Open and really inclusive and all this shit. And then I got it. That's not me. The real me, I'm not like that at all. So it forced me to rethink myself. And I took a different approach to the whole thing. And I said to myself, whatever I get, I will be happy with. So we just kind of, I didn't say that to the guys, but to myself. Was a real shift in awareness. And the gig, of course, went well. It was great.
Sure. Yeah.
But I mean, it's a lesson that one forgets all the time. Because to me, that this is the elements of jazz that I like. And what really turns me on is when I see and hear a band, whether it's jazz or rock or whatever, that actually allows space for everyone there to be themselves. You've got to have musicians, though, that are capable of being themselves.
Sure. Yeah. That's like, how was for you? Like, did you learn that through time? Because let's say your records from the late 70s, you have like, I want to come to that era later a little bit, but with guys like Brecker and, George Mraz and Al Foster and John Abercrombie, all these really strong personalities. But when I listened to the albums, you seem to have that notion of how to, present those guys. If you have John Abercrombie, what he's capable of and to bring him to the forefront. Did you already have that mindset back then?
I think I did, but that's an interesting thought and an interesting question. I think a lot had to do with me coming from New Zealand and the kind of upbringing I had. I was never one of those gung-ho, confident people. I was always trying to do better, always trying, to me, until I got to be my age now, I really don't care so much, Sure. But I was always trying to do better. So I was very hard on myself. And I was equally hard on everybody around me, that unfortunately, without knowing it, But the bottom line is, I always felt I did have an ability to put a good band together.
Oh, yeah.
So, I'd know people and said that this guy's going to work well with this guy, and this guy, etc. And the whole point in doing that is there's no point in putting a band together like that if you don't allow the guys to be themselves.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's the whole thing. It's kind of like you're a cook in a way.
Yeah.
Because
it's like
I
a
never,
team play. Yeah.
Well, I never thought of myself as being a very good player. But what I did do is I listened all the time. I was always listening like a hawk to the players that I'm playing with and all that. And that's really the essence of it. If you listen, you don't have to do much. If you've got great players, all you got to do is stay out of their way, give them something and stay out of their way.
I agree completely. Yeah, I agree completely. Like yesterday, I had an interview. One guy, I did an album now, and one interviewer asked me also, like, that why do I sometimes take only 2 solos or 3 solos in the entire album?
Oh,
and I was like, well, if you have like Paul McCandless on saxophone,
yes. I hear what you're saying. Yeah,
I just want to listen to what he does. I'm like,
yes, I hear that.
So it's like, it's completely what you say. It's sometimes better. Like, man, okay, there's this guy.
It's that balancing thing again. It's the balancing thing again.
Yeah, exactly.
Because ultimately, obviously, you sound similar to me in that the ultimate goal is to make some really interesting music.
Exactly.
That's the goal.
Exactly.
Not about doing your stuff,
Yeah. Yeah. But you mentioned, I wanted to ask you this, like you mentioned you did your first album in 1959. So basically that means you were 19 only, or 18.
I was, yeah, I was either 18 or 19, or maybe it was 20. It was about, I could have been 19. I've got it all here. It's all on. This was way back when. I tell you, I was so green. We were talking about that today, because what happened is I arrived in Australia, and in those days, of course, people would actually set you up with things. They'd set you up with it. And for some reason, we had this guy from Holland playing bass with us, a guy called Freddie Logan, who's since passed. Freddie Logan had quite a bit of experience in the London jazz scene. And we had this trio, and it was his idea to have the trio. So, and so he was the older guy, and he was kind of the leader, but I was basically, free to do the music. But I was so green in those days. One of the songs that we were playing was one of my songs in 5/4. I was so inadequate. I had to kind of, the only way I could play 5/4 was just putting my fingers down and go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 while I'm playing. So, I mean, it's pretty, I was pretty green, and I wasn't classically trained or anything like that. So I had no chops whatsoever. Although sometimes I listen to the stuff back, I think, gee, the good tracks, the bad tracks, but it was one of my most successful records for many years.
Wow.
Even though, it's just a funny thing,
Incredible. I mean, yeah.
And they recently just released it on CD in Germany.
Really?
Yes, I'm serious. Some German label, I've never heard of them. I don't know how they found it, but they released it.
Oh, I'll have to check it out. Okay. Don't have that one. Wow. Okay.
It's really strange.
That's interesting. It's funny. You
I
mentioned
don't think you'd want to hear it.
5/4.
Except as a historical, but I don't think the music it's got its ups and downs. It's got a few ups, Anyway, sorry.
No, but it's nice to see that, we're talking about 60 years ago. So it's part of the history already. I mean, that's a long one, But
wow.
How did this, you mentioned Freddie was from England, right? And
yes. And
how did then this transition from you reaching from England, going to America, especially to Berkeley, happen?
Well, what happened, when I was back in Australia before I left, I'm from New Zealand, and I got to Australia, and I applied for a scholarship to Berkeley.
Oh, okay.
And won it. It was such a small scholarship. For me, it sounded like a lot of money. I mean, can you imagine $3,000 for the scholarship? That's, I didn't know anything about money. I said, great, Then of course I got there to Berkeley and didn't understand. I had no money. I had to start washing dishes. But I'm glad I did all. You don't know, so you jump in.
Sure.
But I was so fortunate because what Boston was a creative place. Sam Rivers, Tony Williams, all my people. These are my friends. So I got really put in the deep end of the music, and it was fantastic.
Wow. That's incredible. Yeah, I mean, but did you just did you just started playing with these guys? You mentioned Sam Rivers. Were there like jam sessions in Boston then, or like how did you meet all these guys, or schoolmates? Or
I'm not even sure how I met Sam. I really don't know. Maybe because I was from New Zealand, and I was a little different from the other cats. I had a different attitude, and maybe that had something to do with it. Herb Pomeroy also. I don't know if you remember that name.
Sure.
He put me under his wing. So he saw something in me and gave me this gig at this band with his big band in this club called the Stables. And Sam Rivers was playing in that band.
Oh, wow.
Okay. It was a pretty interesting band. I mean, it was really, I mean, I was lucky. I felt I was playing, I developed a bit of an attitude because I felt that the cats I was playing with Tony and Alan Dawson, not that but a lot of people.
Wow.
Yeah, well, I played with him for 2 years, but a lot of these cats, I felt New York, these cats in New York, they aren't doing it. We were doing it as far as I was concerned, So I had this kind of ego thing, a confidence,
Interesting.
based on the people that I was hanging with. And I think a lot of the jazz thing really, or music in general, it's about your confidence.
Yeah, sure.
And I worked hard. I really worked real hard. I mean, I really did. I worked at the piano. Because I really wanted to do this so much, I really worked hard,
So
that was the old days.
So it was basically then, like you said, you were really green in the beginning, but
yes,
this is where you really grew then, kind of in those early 60s.
Yes, the whole period in Boston, definitely. Definitely. So I had my 20th birthday there, and then the next maybe 10 years or so, there was definitely a whole, because that's when everything was happening. Look, that was a great period for American culture, actually, especially for music.
Yeah.
And I was really lucky that I was part of it. And that's actually been what's been the thing for me. I mean, because I used to say to people, "Wow, I'm this white boy from New Zealand, but how do I end up with all this?"
Yeah.
So it was pretty fortunate. And working with people like Yusef Lateef, like he was also a big mentor to me.
How did that gig happen? I mean, I have that live at Pep's. I love that.
Well, that was interesting because live at Pep's, what had happened? I was working in a club, Connolly's Stardust Room, which is a little tiny club in Boston, and I heard Herbie Hancock there.
Oh, wow.
I heard all kinds of people there, because it was like one of those, it had a little tiny spinet piano. Eric Dolphy, I heard Eric Dolphy there. I mean, all these cats.
Really?
I got this gig because Hal Galper, who was also living in Boston then, his psychiatrist had told him, you shouldn't play a spinet piano. It's going to mess up your technique or something, or your head or something. So Hal, who we were buddies, he said, "You want to do this gig?" Sure. And me and Yusef just kind of clicked, when you do, wow. And so it's a long story, but at a very crucial time in my life, a few weeks or maybe a month later or something, I'm lying in bed with it's a long story, with my brand new wife of the time, and the phone goes, and it's Yusef, says, "Look, we're starting in this club in Washington, D.C. What was it called? It's quite a famous club." And he says, he wanted me to join the band, just like that.
Oh.
And I said, yeah.
Just a recommendation of Hal, basically. Just on recommendation by Hal.
What Hal got me, Hal got me the gig because he didn't want to do it.
Yeah.
And so the thing was, me and Yusef just kind of clicked.
Then, yeah, that was it. Yeah.
I was like, wow. And he called me to join the gig, and it was a real interesting experience to me because I was on the road with a black band for like about 18 months, playing the blues mainly. And I got to the point that I thought I was a pretty good blues player for a white guy, but we didn't just play blues. We did, a lot of more experimental stuff because Eustace is a bit of a, what do you call it? He had, when he was alive, he was visionary,
open spirit. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. That's what he was. So that was so I was very fortunate, and having, that's like the seal of approval. You're this white guy that nobody knows, and you're playing with all these black cats, and they're all accepting me. So, it's like a magnet.
Yeah.
So things started happening.
That's incredible. Yeah,
I was very lucky.
That's incredible. It's like,
but I didn't have enough confidence to really run with it. That makes any sense? Because I was always thinking I'm not very good. Or what am I doing? So I didn't really. A different type of person or somebody with more confidence might have done something else with it. But hey, you do what you do.
It's funny that you look at it like that, because when I look what you've done in the 70s, or like already starting late 60s, it's this immense amount of really creative music and compositions and work you've done. So I think you've done quite a lot based on that. So,
but Samo, I've always felt that any success I had in the music business was always due to somebody helping me, somebody that was interested in me, and that was the thing. And I never forgot that. It's not about me. It's about what you give and people get. It's all about that.
Yeah. You mentioned then Fourth Way before already. How did that one happen? You guys are, kind of paved the way for fusion, basically, also, and it's quite an underrated group in a sense. Everyone talks about Weather Report and Larry Coryell's group and Gary Burton, but I think this group was, the way I look at it now, puzzling together what was happening, quite important. And
well, it was, but don't forget, Samo, that America is very much, it's a business city. And the thing is, we didn't have those kind of connections.
Okay.
We did not have those kind of connections. Like, I mean, sure, we were on Capitol, but it was all kind of accidental. Our thing was Weather Report had these cats behind it. You know what I'm saying? It's the same. Even somebody like a brilliant musician like a Keith Jarrett, if it wasn't for George Avakian, what would have happened? You know what I'm saying? I mean, you've got this, someone who really knows the business and get the people that we were working with. We were kind of all just hippies, a bunch of hippies. Yeah, it's true.
Yeah, sure. Funny, yeah, but still,
things happen to us.
Yeah, but like the music is like so, basically what Weather Report did in the beginning, almost.
In a way, it was. Right? But we weren't trying to copy anybody. What we were doing,
in a positive sense, I mean, like
Well, what happened? At that time in San Francisco, jazz was dead. Okay, we'd gotten to San Francisco. Jazz was dead. It wasn't happening. But somehow or other, Mr. Rhodes from the Fender Rhodes company had to turn me on to his new piano, and so I started playing this piano, and I thought, wow, it gave me a new voice, an equal voice. So that changed everything. And then what happened is like I started it started changing my thinking about things. And then I'm trying to figure what happened. Oh man, I've lost it there. Like we started working these clubs, and in San Francisco, because jazz was dead, we had to find different venues to play in, not jazz clubs.
Sure.
And one of the things that people do in those other venues is dance. So we started playing a kind of a funkier music, but we wanted to play jazz. We wanted to improvise. So it was kind of like, we weren't trying to sound like anybody. We were just trying to work, just do our music, and be and in the way we wanted to do it, And so it just kind of came about like that,
Interesting.
And which was probably also the reason why we didn't stay together, because there was no plan. The plan was just the music, and you got four volatile people, and I think Michael White felt, and he was probably right. I mean, we went to Germany, and we did a trio session in Germany for MPS.
Really?
Not a bad session either. And Michael, I didn't want Mike on the record because I wanted it to be a trio record. I wanted to separate it from that. And I guess he was hurt, maybe, and maybe that hurt developed into other things. So he went his own way after that. And that was a whole different, and that was a music that I wasn't really into. Anyway, so it's like, it's all a journey, and it's been an organic journey. And that to me is still what I find interesting in music, if it's got organic roots.
Definitely. Yeah, I agree. I mean, you seem to have done that all the time when I look at you, you're playing, whether it was like this fusionist vibe or going like really out, even modern, and in the 70s, it feels organic. Even the new, Another Dance, it's like really has this.
Well, thank you, because that's what it is. It's not about the style of the music.
Yeah,
it's beyond that. It's actually more. I was going to use words like spiritual, but I don't know what it is. It's just that it is. It's. I always felt an awareness of another dimension. I'll put it that way. Beyond this where we are, and there is another dimension to life, whether or death or whatever, or to existence. Maybe that's better. There's other dimensions to existence, and I think that's the real. That's where the things really is all about. So I don't get too caught up in money and shit like that. I mean, I've been lucky. I've been really lucky, and I continue to be lucky. All I've ever done is do what I want to do.
Yeah, that's a privilege. That's a privilege. Yeah. I always think of that also when talk with musicians that it's basically that we can play jazz and creative music. That's quite a
It's fantastic.
that's
So good.
a privilege, you know. It's an amazing
It
thing.
is a
I mean,
privilege.
we have invested a lot of time doing this or that, you know, when some other people maybe would be watching movies or whatever, you know, you were like shedding.
Well, yeah, true.
No, in a way, but still, it's, you know, it's still amazing that we can do that. So
it's one of the beautiful things.
yeah.
You know, one of the very beautiful things in life.
Yeah.
To be able to do that, I feel.
Yeah, me too.
You know.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, I just had a session today with this young kid. He's from New Zealand, a young saxophone player. He's 19, and we're like this. I've only met him about 6 months or a year ago. And we do a lot of playing, just duos and stuff like that. Not commercially, just at the house. Sometimes I hire him in my band because he's got a great spirit, and he's starting to really flower, you know. And his name is Ben Lerner, which is a great name. Learner, like learning. Ben Lerner.
Yeah.
You know, that's his name.
That's amazing. Yeah. It's funny, like when you're on stage, it doesn't matter whether you're 19 or 80.
No.
It's all about the music. If someone closes your eyes, you don't know who's playing. But if it's together, yeah.
That's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
And that's what I loved about living in New York at the time. You know, at that time, that's maybe it's the same now, but you know, like it didn't matter who you were. When you played, that's it. That's who you were. You played, and doesn't matter what your history had been up to that point. You got up there and you did your thing. And so you had to kind of get the inside, you know, you couldn't be shy or whatever. If you were, that's your problem, you know.
Yeah, sure.
You know, if you're there, you just kind of did the best you could, always. And that's what it's always about to me, putting it out there, you know, while I still can. I mean, because I'm no longer that a young guy, and it's, you know, getting older has its problems. It has its good points too, but, you know.
Yeah, I seem to have a lot of energy still. Yeah, I love that. Like, just
not as much as I'd like.
But you know, like when I talk to you now, like you seem to have still this enthusiasm going on, which is
well, it's the enthusiasm, and I think that's the big thing. Is like wondering what's happening next. The always being enthusiastic. You know, like you know, wow, what's going to happen next? You know, you know, all that stuff. You know. Yeah. Curiosity, that's the word I was
Curiosity, that's a good one.
I have a curiosity, an insatiable curiosity. And when that curiosity is gone, it's all over.
Yeah, definitely.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, definitely. Well, you mentioned New York. In what year did you move to New York?
I went to Boston in 1960, and I was in New York about 2 or 3 years later. So it might have been 62, 60, something like that, you know. And, you know, it was great, you know. It was great, you know. It was, and then, oh, right, what had happened? Yeah, because I must have been working with Yusef before I moved to New York, of course.
Okay. Yeah.
You know, so I went to Boston and did this little thing there. And I used to work with a club. There was a club in Boston called Lenny's on the Turnpike. You ever heard of that?
No.
Oh, you never have. It was a roadhouse, what they call it. You know, it was outside the city. It was a jazz club. And what this guy did, and I worked there with a bass player called Kent Carter.
Kent Carter, yeah, really. Yeah. Oh man, yes. Really? He played with Paul Bley later, I think, also, and many other musicians.
He did all that stuff. Yeah. I haven't heard of him now, but he lives in Europe, you know. And Alan Dawson was the drummer, and also a guy called John Neves also played bass. Maybe you would know him. He was great. But the point is, I worked there there was my gig, and what we were the house rhythm section, because in those days guys used to tour around the state, so I got to work with all the cats. You know, when I was just a young, arrogant kid who didn't know anything, but every week these guys would show up, you know, not Dexter. I did play with Dexter, but not there. But, you know, Bennie Golson. I mean, I can name, it was like a who's who. It was like a who's who of jazz. You know what I'm saying?
Man.
And it was just fantastic. So that's where I really got my grounding. And like, because at the same time, I'm still playing with Tony and Tony Williams and Sam Rivers, doing all that stuff. But I'm playing playing actual gigs with all these cats, all these players all the time, you know. So I was very fortunate. And then I went to New York, and that's all. I guess I must have gone with Yusef before. As soon as that gig finished, well, he offered me the gig. I was still working at Lenny's, but hey, to go on the road with Yusef, that's what I want to do.
Sure.
And then when I finished that, I quit the band. That's another story, because I got, I've been there for a while, and I just, music's tied up with so many things. So I quit the band. I went to New York, and then it just started happening for me in another way, So, so I would have been in New York, maybe, was it 63, 66, something like that, 1963, 60, I don't know. There's a book written about it. Whenever I really want some information, I go to the book and read out what I've done, because this guy spent 5 years writing my life story, which is pretty amazing.
Man, I have to check it out. Oh, is it
it's
available?
Called, I can get it for you, but I won't get it now. God,
I'll check. Yeah. Okay. I'll try to find it. I love reading, these.
Well, it's pretty interesting. It's what the hell is the name of it? It's a good book. Look, I mean, a lot of it's a bit fantasy, because a book is a book. You know what I'm saying? I mean, cats write all this stuff, and it's like, well, okay, but it's like, and he had his own. Every writer has their own
style
thing.
Yeah.
And not just style, but what they want to say. The things that they think are important in your life. Oh, it's. Yuri, where's my book? Do you know what's the name of it?
I bring it.
She's gonna get it for Serious Fun. That's what it's called. Serious Fun.
Oh, okay.
Which is what the whole. That's what the thing is.
Exactly.
Serious Fun.
Exactly. But did you get the experience in New York? Like, did you see Coltrane and Miles and all these guys?
Oh yeah. I met Train. I met Miles. Miles called me up once. That's the book. Serious Fun.
Oh, okay.
Can you see that?
Find it. Yeah. I have to find it. Wow, super.
Yeah, but I met Miles. Matter of fact, I had some funny conversation. I always wanted to play with Miles. But I was so scared of him. He was one of those musicians. Train, I didn't even think about playing with Train, but I did meet him, which was quite nice.
Wow, man.
And one of the very first people I met when I got to New York, way back when, I was at the Old Five Spot, and Ornette Cohen was playing there, and Jimmy Garrison was playing bass.
Ooh.
And we just bonded. He remained a friend the rest of my stay in the States,
Seriously.
A good friend. And Pete LaRocca was in the club, and he introduced me to Pete. Now, I never played with either of those guys, but every time from then on, we were the best buddies. I don't know why. It was so good.
Wow. Man, that's incredible.
And McCoy and I are pretty tight, or you're not so much now, And I've recorded with Alvin. We did an album with McCoy Tyner. With Jim Pepper. Remember Jim Pepper?
Oh man, one of the best, one of the most under the radar players. Like,
he was fantastic,
Richie Taito.
So we did this record.
Yeah. Sorry.
What are you saying?
No, he wrote some amazing tunes, Jim. Like, I love.
Well, Witchy Taito.
Yeah, exactly.
Witchy Taito, the peyote chant, which he got from his father. It's an Indian peyote chant.
Beautiful tunes. Yeah.
Yeah. And Larry Coryell was playing guitar on that too. Larry Coryell, what's his name? Eddie Gomez, myself, and Alvin.
How was it like for you to play with Alvin? How was?
Oh, it was fantastic. It was fantastic. I mean, wow, it's a whole other thing again. The whole other thing. I mean, you played with Alvin. He didn't play with you. Some of the drummers I like guys that play with me, but you played with him. Alvin, you played with him.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Oh yeah,
just listen and do what. And I was really unhappy because I did a trio tune on that date, and I felt it was the best I'd ever played up to that point. But I've never even heard it. I've never even heard the recording or anything, and I don't know where it is now. with Alvin, I mean, of course it's going to sound great. The drums are so important in this music.
Yeah, I mean, the drums are everything for me.
Yes, yeah.
That's like the propulsion motor that,
Well, that's why I've always been lucky enough to play with, like, I really think Al Foster was one of my favorites.
Yeah.
I did a lot of records with Al.
I
We've
love
done maybe
those
half a
records.
dozen records.
Yeah.
He was fantastic. And then having Tony as a bandmate in the early days, and just a friend and everything else, we played a lot together. And you got an insight into, you got spoiled. You got spoiled. Not very many cats would measure up to those guys.
Oh no, yeah, yeah. It's a high standard you set. Like the bar is really high. Then yeah, absolutely. Yeah. How did those albums? I wanted to ask you already before. Like how did you choose the bands? Like in, out, and around. Let's say with Brecker and George and Al. How did that group happen? I mean, that's like for me that's an incredible record, by the way. I love that.
It is. It is. Thank you. It is an incredible record. That was before Brecker wasn't really famous in those days. He had come to a gig I'd done and somewhere. Actually, I think I might have even been playing with Alvin. That's possible. I think I was, but it was a terrible gig. It was like it was in Philadelphia in a basketball court. So you can imagine it was I was like, oh my God, so I didn't even think anything of it. But Michael's father had brought him to the gig. So maybe that's, so anyway, I don't know what happened, how he got on that gig, but somehow or other, why, that's an interesting story. How did that happen? I'm not sure. But George Mraz, him and Al had never played together before, but I wanted Al on the gig. And somehow or other, somebody, might have been Richie Byrack, might have suggested George Mraz. And to me, that was like the dream, that those cats just slotted in so wonderfully, And Michael Brecker he was phenomenal, And I told him before the session, I was a very arrogant little kid, like in those days. I said, I don't want you playing all those notes, all that stuff,
Oh man, are you serious? Wow.
I was very feisty. I was telling these New York cats how to play. It was really quite bizarre. I mean, I was very cheeky. I didn't realize it at the time.
Man, that's a good one. It's like telling Trey, like, yeah, man, I really like it, but can you not play that stuff? Like,
exactly.
Oh man, that's wow. Yeah, but you got to hang and play with all these amazing cats. So in a way, your confidence grew as well, I guess, as well, right?
I think it must have been that. It must have. What else? What would it have been? Couldn't have been anything else. Although, I mean, I did sound pretty good in some of those things in those days. Yeah. I mean, I say that because I've been places when people have said, "Guess who this is?" I said, "No idea, but gee, I like it." They say, "Well, it's you." Oh God! Then you kind of get them, it's like, "Oh God, I had no idea." In other words, I've often said, if I knew I played as well as I did, I would have had a different attitude. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Bizarre. No, it's funny, like, because when you look at those albums now, like, I mean, those guys sadly left us already, like Abercrombie and George Mraz and, Michael Brecker and all these amazing musicians. And they're all legends, based on their instruments,
Yes, yes.
Brecker is like there, and Abercrombie for me is one of the,
and deservedly so.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
And then you're like saying this now, like what you said to Michael. That's like so amazing. Really,
well, I didn't know. I didn't know. I was ignorant. No,
but back then you were in the same soup, I guess. And you're just playing together, and yeah.
Yeah, and we weren't even playing together that much or anything, but I'd hire these cats for my gigs, sometimes.
Yeah.
And whatever. I was lucky. I was very lucky. And it's New York's a funny town. You just kind of certain things you don't know, but yeah, it's a funny place.
It is, yeah. It's a small scene in a way, as it's as much
very
as
small
it's a huge
scene.
Scene. It's like quite.
Very small scene. That's what I felt.
Very quickly you connect. Like, yeah.
I felt there was only 4 piano players in the world when I was a rap there. So and then I ran across Keith. Keith was in the next studio practicing. So well, we used to play double pianos together.
Seriously.
Yeah, just informally, But I mean, he'd come over the house and he'd play a saxophone and all that shit. And Chick, I used to play with Chick a bit. This was a different scene in those days. We were really innocent. Everybody was really quite innocent, And then things started, as it always does. Things change. When money and success gets involved in it. And I'm not very good at all that stuff. I mean, I got offered to tour that band, the band with Michael,
really?
In Europe. But man, the pressure, I couldn't handle it. I said, no, I'm not going to do it, because it was like I would have been paid the least of anybody in the band, which would have been all right, but it would be my band, and I'm up there, and I was too young and my ego was too big, I should have just jumped with that chance and just played with those cats and did a tour under my name with them.
Yeah. Yeah.
But,
it's funny, because when you talk to musicians now, it's like when they become a band leaders, you're happy, you're like on a positive zero. Like many times newer cats come to Europe and they're like, well, we did this tour under my own name and I did make losses, so that's a good one already. So
exactly.
I wanted to ask you, Mike, about these records. I mean, and even throughout your career, you wrote a lot of tunes and a beautiful.
I've always done that. Like just by talking about the writing tunes thing.
Yeah.
Ever since I've been in, and basically the reason I wrote music, I needed something to play. And I'm not a very good musician. And I'd hear things, and I couldn't hear exactly what it was. And so I'd write something that would sound kind of like that I could kind of play on. So it's just from that, perspective. And of course, I've studied a lot since then.
Sure.
Sure. But it doesn't mean to say that my writing is any better. I've got more chops. I can do all that. But and music's a funny thing. Music's as you well know, it's a very funny thing. What makes a melody really stand out?
Yeah. I mean, that's I always wonder, and how we still find, connections that haven't been discovered. I find that so fascinating. It's so 12 notes only in a way.
Exactly.
And the chords are unlimited in a way, but they are still limited. But I guess
of course they're limited. But you're right. They're in some way they are. It's language.
Yeah.
So it is a language. It is a language. And I think that a lot of people don't quite get that. It is a language. I consider it to be the language of the emotions, which many people do, and that's what it is. It is a language.
Yeah. Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, but it's bizarre, right? Even in pop music, you take like C, G, D, and E minor, and throughout history, 1,000, I don't know how many tunes were written on these four chords, and still people come up with something new, like with a new melody on it, or it's like, really? How? It's bizarre.
But Samo, don't you think it's something to do with the emotional impetus behind these things?
Oh, sure.
The emotion. That's what it is, because it's the emotion that changes everything, colors everything. It's the same. It's the same. But why is it different?
Yeah.
Why is it different? I mean, I think there's too much jazz education. I was a teacher for a while, for a long time actually. I made, it was what I did when I came back to Australia. I was at the. But I don't really believe in. I mean, I can see the value in teaching, but I never felt that I was a jazz teacher. If anything, I taught a little bit of music, but more it's about the success I would have with students would be. I'm looking at that sign that says, the success would be, it's about teaching them to be better humans.
Yeah. Human
beings. That's really what you're teaching people. If anything, you're teaching them some basic human values. The music is secondary.
Yeah, I mean, like, teach someone chops and chords. It's nice, but it's also with me. I remember lessons, I learned a little with Schofield. And, the one lesson I remember from him was like...
I worked with Schofield too quite a bit. We
Really?
recorded together.
Where? Which one was that? Oh, man, please share. I don't know that one.
It's never been released. I have it here. It's never been released, but no, I'll tell you, it's a good story. The band was Schofield, a young Schofield, and he sounds great, like a young Schofield.
Wow.
Jeff Berlin on bass, Illyrio Lima. Remember Illyrio Lima from Weather Report on percussion?
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Al, of course, on drums, and Lou Marini from the Blues Brothers, on saxophone.
That was your group?
Yeah, it's all my music. but we never released it. And Tio Macero was the producer, basically.
Wow.
And we also had, but it was one of those things. I keep thinking I should release this, but
please, yeah. We need
but it's like, I don't know. It's I like it. It's not a. I was playing piano and synthesizer, mainly Moog, but piano and some Rhodes, and Schofield's even playing a 12 string on one of the two of the songs.
Seriously,
Yeah.
I don't think he's ever on record on 12 string. Maybe
not.
No, I don't think
maybe
so.
Maybe not.
Wow,
yeah.
man.
But the thing came about because I was pretty friendly with Tio, and Tio he got this idea. Oh man, let's do this record. We'll do a disco. He said, oh man, yeah, disc. So we played all my songs with a kind of, but it wasn't disco. I mean, with a band like that, we weren't playing disco.
Sure.
It was like, you can imagine, it was pretty weird. It didn't fit in any of the slots. So we made the record and couldn't sell it to anyone. Tio says, oh, we'll sell 40,000 copies like that. Of course, no one, it was in the cracks. So it just sat around. And I wasn't sure I wanted it released because it's really kind of, it's not my aesthetic either. But the vibe of the music, the energy is incredible. It really is incredible.
Just imagine, yeah. I mean,
so
yeah.
It's
man, you have to bring this out. I mean, we already the band, and like it's part of the history. It would be a shame that it's kept on a shelf. I mean,
I should. You're right. I should look. I've got it's all on CD. I just need to do it. But I've also got a couple of things. You might laugh at this. With you ever heard that record called Almanac? Was
with Bennie
quartet record?
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
Cecil McBee, man.
Cecil McBee. Well, that was Cecil. Cecil had just moved to New York, so we had just done a trio record, and I've got that also, the trio record, and also another trio record with Henry Grimes.
Oh no, really?
Yeah, this is going, and it's all either my music or Ornette's music or something. But it's my I'm the leader. It's just like I've never done anything with that stuff. It just sits around, and every now and then I think, oh, I should do something with this.
Oh, I mean, like now tapes are coming out on albums like Coltrane stuff. That unreleased album.
Oh yeah, I know. Yeah.
And come on, that's. Man, you got me so excited. I'm like a small kid. I mean, I love early Schofield stuff, like the stuff he did in the 70s when he played like really like this fast pentatonic lines, with Nussbaum and Swallow already. And
oh yeah.
It's just like, man, wow. We need that. We need that, Mike. Come on. You really have to bring this out. It's just
it's like it, but it's. In terms of like stylistically and everything else, it's I think it's great, but it's definitely not. It's not serious. It's party music. We're playing out. It's got a different vibe. It's got and there's even one track with some girls singing. We've got Al's girlfriend and this lady friend of mine from New Zealand would say, "You got it. If it's in your pocket, you got it. Yeah, all this shit." It's really funny,
but it makes sense.
But the vibe, Jeff Berlin, he's playing that shit like it's insane,
Man, I mean, it makes sense. You know, Scopelate with George Duke and those days.
That's right. Oh yeah.
It's kind of all blends together. You know.
Well, George Duke used to beg me to come down and listen to him. Can you believe that shit? This is in the early days. He used to beg me, Mike, you got to come and hear me play.
That's bizarre.
It's hilarious.
That's so beautiful.
You know, wow. It's hilarious.
No, but come
the
on.
History of the music.
But it's a document of time. That's why I think it's so important.
Well, yeah, that's why it is important. I will have to do something about it. I will. You know.
Yeah,
I will. Except I've got so many things to do anyway. I'm so busy all the time, not working, just with things. You know. I just finished a piece that I got a commission for, and the piece was like, however much I wanted to ask for it, they said just whatever. They just called me up, and they said, yeah, do it with your band, your quartet or something. And I've been it's been a nightmare for me. Because it's like, you know, the music is, I think I've finally got the piece, the shape of it, but it's taken me a long, and it's like, it's nothing. It's just so simple, but it's taken me all this time to find something that I feel is, you know, worth it. And it's definitely nothing complex or anything intellectual, definitely not intellectual, but it's got a vibe to it, and trying to get that right vibe, you know. And I'm thinking of using this music as a framework for all the gigs I do this year, of my own. You know, you know, because it's just like that's what I was working towards, to get something universal that I can get cats to play relatively easily, and still do this thing. So it's like a bubble that you enter into. You know, the TARDIS, Mike Nock's TARDIS or something.
No, but that's a thin line, yeah. Like how much to write and how much to leave space.
Yes, exactly.
That's quite
exactly.
Overwriting is also quite heavy sometimes.
Absolutely, and I that's what I've been feeling, and just trying to get an essence of stuff that's going to like open this shit up, and yet have a character that you can kind of return to and explore and do what you want to, you know.
Yeah. That's so important. I love that when I mentioned Abercrombie, like the quartets he did in like 2000s with Mark Feldman, and the melodies are just like a 9-bar melody, and that's it. And then they go open, and it's just they're flying. I mean, it's just like wow, it's so nice to hear that.
We had a trio together back in the early days with Rick Laird and Abercrombie, and we did some recording. But we never did anything commercially. We just didn't get to that point, But I did quite a bit of playing with him in those early days. And we used to work at a club in New York at the Sweet Basils.
Really?
Wow. So, and of course I knew Rick from years ago.
Yeah, he was from Australia, right?
Yeah. He's actually Irish, but, he lived here. And we were living in the same house for quite a while before any of this stuff happened,
That's amazing.
Matter of fact, when I first met Rick, you'll like this. He was a guitarist, and I couldn't stand him because I'd thought, this arrogant young guy. I said, well, what do you want to play? He says, play anything you like. I says, man, and we were just young kids, And, so I was not impressed at all that this guy didn't know any songs. He just said, keep playing or whatever. When I saw him 2 or 3 months later, he's now playing the bass. And it's like, what? What happened to this cat?
The rest is history, right? Yeah.
Yes.
Incredible, man. It's just, it's incredible what you've done. Like when I was kind of thinking about your career, like these 70s, just it's amazing. And now keep telling, like a record with Schofield and that, and then I'm like, man, okay, it's incredible, really. Like I love this. Like I did these talks, with Liebman and Cal Galper also, and Richie Byrek, and just when these guys tell me about these 70s, Liebman was like, we did love sessions, and Steve Grossman came and Michael Brecker came and those guys came, and we jammed like a track for 2 hours. Like what? It's just, it sounds so romantic. Like I don't know, you were.
Well, it does, and it was a great period. I mean, I did a record with Liebman recently, not recently, a few years ago now. But I don't know whether you've seen it. It's called Duologue.
No,
It's a live recording, and it actually won the biggest award in Australia,
I have to find
which
that
was
one.
quite big. You know, it won this big award, you know, as record of the year or something. But the thing is, what happened? Well, I hadn't seen Dave for years, and maybe 20 years. And so we met up and said, well, what are we going to do? We were playing live in front of an audience of about 500 people or something. So we had a glass of wine, had some food, and looked at the music, and went back and just walked on stage, and they recorded it and became this record.
Oh wow!
You know, it's like that won this big award. You know, it's just funny how shit works out. You know, I mean.
It's amazing.
I'm not saying it's a great record. It's got its moments, but you know, it's just these connections. You know, the connections.
What we said, before.
Yeah.
Incredible. Just Mike, just not to take too much of your time. I just wanted to ask you also about one aspect of your career, which was piano solo playing, which I love, by the way. It's, you know, piano solo. It's for me. It's an intimate thing. You know, you're there all alone with the keys, and you started doing it quite early in your career. When did that trigger happen for you to do piano solo records? You know, like Talisman and that, like already.
Yeah, sure. I'm not sure. I mean, I never thought it was mainly a thing of like. I don't even know why. I never felt that I was always petrified playing the solo piano because I never felt I was a very good piano player, you know, but the opportunity came up. So you just do what you can. And I'd heard Herbie play at the Vanguard solo, and he played the same as he played anyway. You know, he just played. I said, oh, shit, okay, well, I'll take that approach, you know, just play, you know. And the first record I did, which you mentioned, Talisman, what I was trying to do on that record was just to play some music that would please my mother. That would make my mother happy. That was basically it, you know. And I was amazed when all these kind of hip musicians used to really kind of refer to it and dig it. And I was like, wow, you know, it's kind of funny, you know. And I've done a few solo. I'm thinking of doing another solo record maybe.
Oh, beautiful.
But I've got so many projects I need to get to. I've got even though I'm over 80 now, I've got all these projects I want to get to. And you know, it's like, where's the time? The time goes you know what I'm saying? I feel actually that I may be having a little bit of a rebirth at this point, maybe, because it seems like that's happening. And, you know, you have these little time periods where things start, sure. Oh, okay. And I feel that may be happening for me. I feel it may be, I'm not, you know. So hopefully in this next wave, I'll do a few records that I feel good about. You know what I'm saying? Maybe. At last. At last.
Come on. And don't forget to bring out the records we mentioned, right?
All right. Well, there you go.
You know, come on, Henry Grimes and Schofield and Jeff Berlin and all these guys. I think if you dug out your archive, you would find like 20 records that are like probably begging to be released. You know.
It's so funny. Well, I tell you, Moses has been releasing these things. You know, Bob Moses. He did.
I have to brag here. I have a tour with Bob Moses in October.
Ah, fantastic. Oh, well, man, obviously you got to tell him we had this talk.
Oh, I will. I think, you know, we did a record so this year, and it's coming out this year. So.
Oh, man, he's a wonderful drummer and a really wonderful spirit. I mean, he really is a wonderful spirit.
You guys played together? Oh, you did probably, right? I mean, you were in the same circle.
Yeah, when we were younger, back in the day. And we actually played a gig here in Sydney that I was really, really pissed off about, because what happened, the club owner knew we were coming, and it was just a trio, and didn't get the piano tuned.
Oh, shit. Oh, yeah.
That was just, it was so badly out of tune. To me, it was like, what? You know, and this guy used to, you know, I don't understand. I think there might have been something else going on in there. I don't. It's just like, you know, as I said, egos, all kinds of funny things, and there's all kinds of things happening. It was a shame, but it was great to play with Bobby anyway, you know.
Oh, that's
Rock Kalam, you know.
yeah.
You'll have fun. That'll be a great tour. Where is that going to be?
Oh, we're like it's with Bob and Arild Andersen from Norwegian.
All right.
Bass player.
Wow. Yeah. Sure.
And we have like 2-week tour in October in Europe, like Germany and Austria and Italy and gigs.
Fantastic.
Like that. So, yeah, I'm so much looking forward. For me, you know, I'll be I'll play 2 notes and then just like, okay, guys.
Oh, of course. Of course. No, but that's it. That's it. You just sit in the middle and just listen to the music.
Yeah, I'll be
and
like
all that happens. You know,
for me,
that'll
it's
be
like
so great.
Yeah, dream. You know, playing with these guys who I have on my records. I mean, on the record.
Fantastic. Fantastic.
Looking forward to that. So.
Wow. Yeah. Well, I wish I could be a fly on the wall with that one.
Oh, come on. Yeah. I wish I was a fly on the wall on many of your records, actually. So, you know, like that's, you know.
So do I. Wish I was a fly on the wall.
No, come on. But yeah. But are you still planning otherwise to come to Europe one day or like any plans about that?
Anything's possible. Anything's possible. I don't put myself out too much. You know, I mean, I'm at an age, I really, you know, I mean, I love to do things, but traveling is from here, it's a long way to go.
Pain in the ass, yeah. It's
yes, it is. It really is, you know.
Yeah.
And, you know, so, I mean, I mean, the thing is, there's lots of things I'd love to do, and maybe I should just, if I can find some drug of some kind that's going to give me like some couple of years of good energy, then maybe I'll show up in Europe, you know.
Here I am, people. But no, come on, it's so beautiful to see you. You know, you have so much energy and enthusiasm, and like.
Well, not yeah, but you know, there's energy and there's energy. At my age, you know, like I had my 80th birthday like about 1.5 years ago, and man, it's like definitely different thing, you know.
Yeah.
You have to deal with different things, you know.
I know what you mean. Yeah. I know what you mean.
You don't know yet, but anyway, you know.
No, I feel because already now I'm like, you know, 43, and when it comes to
43, man, that was half a lifetime ago for me.
No, but you know, traveling also many times I'm like flying, you know.
Oh, you know, traveling can be hard, and I never really anything my whole life. I mean, people, as I said, people read the books, they read stuff I've done, they think I must have been really busy. I'm one of the laziest guys around, you know. I am, you know. I just do what I want to do, pretty much.
Yeah, that's good.
You know, I mean, it's good and it's bad, you know. Yeah. It is what it is, you know. You know, I try to rise to the occasion and do that, you know. But you know, it's like, I mean, I'm happy. See, maybe the problem is I'm easily satisfied. You know, as a person, not with my music, but I'm easily satisfied because life, man, all you got to do is just look at something or just listen or whatever. It's like all the stuff is there, and there's so much. You know, as I said, there may be other stuff, or I don't know. This is just one aspect of life.
Oh yeah, sure.
So, you know,
yeah, definitely.
So I don't have a lot of, as you can see, I don't have the usual burning ambition of a jazz musician that's trying to make it. I mean, I've too much disappointment there. You know what I'm saying? Been disappointed too many times. Fuck it, you know.
No, but come on, you know. I think you've done so much music. Like we talked in this, you know, 1 hour already. It's just.
It's been an hour.
You know, yeah. I mean, you've done so much that it's. You know, that's why I love doing these talks. It's for me, you know, it's part of the history that you guys created actually, and you were part of it, and still are part of it, you know, and that's such a beautiful thing. And well,
I look forward to hearing your music, Samo. I really do.